Hello and welcome to day 10 of the Floral Craft Countdown, where I'm sharing a brand new flower-themed Cricut project with you every day for 14 days. Today's project is this super adorable layered paper craft gnome holding a bouquet of flowers. There's lots and lots of depth to him, but he'd be a little bit lonely on his own, right? So I guess it's just as well that you also get a female gnome to match. Both of these are included in today's download, and I'll show you how to stick them both together in this video. Let's get started. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Floral Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/floral. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you have missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/floral bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Floral Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. The download comes in a zip folder. You will need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, get the SVG files uploaded into Design Space. If you're not sure how to do that, check out the Foundation Learning section of this Craft Countdown, where there's a link to a separate tutorial and video on how to upload SVG files into Cricut Design Space. The male and female names come as separate files, so you'll need to upload them one at a time. This is what they look like when they're loaded onto your project. They do come ready to cut, but you might want to resize them to make sure that they're going to fit wherever it is that you're planning on putting them. To resize them, click on one of the designs and make sure the padlock icon at the top of the width and the height boxes is closed. If yours is open, click on it to close it. That means you can resize either the width or the height, press the Enter button on your keyboard, and the other measurement will change to keep everything in proportion. I feel like the male gnome needs to be a little bit shorter than the female because his hat sort of curves over, whereas hers is tall. So I'll make him 7 inches and her 8 inches. And I think that looks good. They look like they match. If you're going to be cutting them both out at the same time, I recommend checking the colours. For example, the nose and the hands on the male gnome are slightly different colour to the female one. So at the moment, Cricut would try to get you to cut it on 2 separate sheets of card, when actually you could probably combine it together into one. To do that and to check the colours, press the Colour Sync button at the top of the Layers panel. This changes how it looks, so it now separates everything out by colour. And if I scroll down to where it shows those noses and hands, here you are. You can see they're very similar, but not quite the same. Click and drag one into the other, and that will change them so now they are all exactly the same colour. So now they're cut from the same sheet of card. And you can go ahead and do the same for other similar colours if you want to. For example, I could change the kind of pale yellow on the female design, click and drag that to match the colour of the beard on the male gnome. Then that's one less colour that I'll need to cut. Similarly, the middle of the daisy on her hat, that could be the same colour as the middle of the buttercup on the male hat. And there might be others you can combine too. Another way you can do it is to click back to layers and then open them up so that we see. And then if you notice any bits that are similar, for example, at the moment, the bouquet on the female gnome is a kind of tealy aqua colour, but it could be cut from the same colour as the male gnome's hat. So I could look down until I find those layers. Here's one of them. And then under the box here, where it says material colours, this shows the colours that are already present in the design. So I could click on the lighter blue from the male's hat and then do the same for the other one. That one should be the darker blue. So that's this blue that's making up the flowers. And then that one again is the lighter one. So now I'm going to need 2 less colours when cutting this out. This is also a nice way to see at a glance the amount of colours that the project is going to need. If it's easier, what you can do is hide one of the names by clicking the eye icon next to the group in the Layers panel, and then you can just cut them out one at a time. That's what I tend to do, as I do find it a little bit easier. And also, if you're cutting out 2 at the same time, you'll find that it comes quite tricky to work out which hands and which noses go on which gnome, as they are often very similarly sized. So what I would personally do is cut out the male gnome first and then come back and hide that one, turn on the female one, and then cut out the female one. But of course, it's completely up to you however you want to do it. When you're happy with how your screen is looking, press Make, and then it will separate out all the colours for you. You can change the paper size in the drop downs here, and then you can click and drag to move things about to take up less space on your cardstock. I like to move things as much as I can so that I leave other areas free to use on another project another day. You will need to do that for each colour individually. When you're happy with how everything is looking, press Continue to connect to your Cricut machine, then follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut out from cardstock. Here's my male gnome all cut out and ready to stick together. I've laid all the pieces on top of each other in the correct order, following the assembly guide that's included in your download folder, just to check that I'm happy with all of the colours and that I haven't missed anything along the way. I'll show you how to stick this one together first, and then after that I'll move on to the female gnome. We need to start at the bottom and work our way upwards, so let's move some of these bits apart. To save a little bit of time, I have already glued the darker red flowers onto the lighter ones, and also that was going to help me stop losing all those little tiny pieces. I'll try and keep these roughly in the correct positions, seeing as I've already gone to the effort of getting them in place. Right, so now I'm left with my very 2 bottom pieces. I'll be sticking these together with a combination of glue and foam squares. The glue I'm using is Bearly Art Glue. It's a little tricky to get in the UK, but I managed to find it on Amazon. One that's more available in the UK is Collall. This is a great glue. They're both great glues because they don't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like some other glues can do, although the Collall glue is a solvent glue, so it does have a little bit of a smell, whereas the Bearly Art Glue smells much less. This is a white glue rather than a solvent glue. I think the Collall is quite hard to get in the USA, but the Bearly Art Glue is quite easy to find, so it's a little bit opposite of what we have here in the UK. What I really like about the Bearly Art Glue is it comes with this needle tip top to it, whereas with the Collall you've got to buy little needle tip applicator bottles separately to put the glue into, otherwise you can't get it into the tiny little gaps. Gluing this first bit on. This one lines up, and the nice thing about the glue is you can wiggle it around until you've got it exactly in position. And then the next piece is his feet. Here we go. This will also be a glue layer. Next, we're starting on his beard, and this will be a foam square layer. I'm using these foam squares from Dot & Dab, but any will do. These ones are nice because they're quite small. If yours are bigger, you might need to cut them smaller with a pair of scissors when we get to some of the smaller pieces. I'll turn this upside down and then start adding the foam squares. As I've made my gnome quite big, I'll need quite a lot of these foam squares. So I'm trying to put any in the kind of sticky out places around the edge, but it's also important to put some in the middle of the design, because if there's nothing in the middle, there's nothing to hold it flat. So you might find, especially when the other pieces of card are put on top, that if there's nothing in the middle bit here, it will kind of dome downwards like this, but there's nothing to support it. So a few bits in the middle will stop that happening and give you a much better final appearance. That's a lot of foam squares. Now it can peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. When you're lining up foam square layers, try to get your edges right. So I'm using the flower and the top of the bouquet. And then when you've got it in place, just simply drop it down. Don't put any pressure on it yet. Just let it go and let it fall into place, and then you can see if you're happy. Because I've not actually put any weight on this yet, I could pick it up and move it easily. But actually that looks good, I'm happy with it, so I'll push down to get it all nice and stuck. Next we're moving on to the detail layer for his beard, which is this piece, and this will be a glue layer. Next is his moustache, which again is 2 layers, just like with the beard, starting with the solid one, which will be foam squared. Just like before, I'm going to get this in position and then gently let it fall into place. Like that. And that looks good, so I'll push down to seal. Then we can glue his detailed moustache layer on top. We've already got quite a bit of dimension going on. If I turn it round, you can see it starting to build. So the next piece, which is his hat, I'm going to glue. Just because he's already getting a little bit on the thicker side. That's this bit. Now it's time for the detail layer in his hat to make up those pretty flowers, which again will glue. It's the rim of his hat next. This will be a foam square layer to give it some dimension. I just moved that when I moved that across. That wasn't very clever. Let's try and fix that before the glue dries. I think it's too late. I think that has dried. Oops. Never mind. Hopefully you won't be able to tell that much. I just managed to move it and fold it a little bit. Should have been more careful. Right, foam squares on this bit. Glue his nose on next. It'll be hiding under the bouquet. Just enough that you can see it. For the flower on his hat, the bottom bit, which is this yellow bit, will be foamed. It's a little tricky lining up, but there's this one petal that's got the 2 ridges on, which lines up with this bottom. That's probably the easiest way to do it. And then the middle is glued. There, lovely little gnome. He's just waiting for his flowers. First, we've got this tiny little yellow bit, which is making up the ribbon here. We only need this tiny bit because the rest of it will all be covered up. That one on there. Then there's the biggest green bit, which will be glued. The next bit, also glued. And the next bit you'll never guess. Yep, glued again. Let's go check I got that the right way around. The next green layer, this one is kind of up to you. I will add foam squares because I want it to pop out nice, but if you think it's getting a little bit thick already, then glue this bit instead. Next is the final green bit. This is glued. Then I've got the flowers. Remember, I've already stuck my light red bits onto the darker bits. So now I'm going to foam square these on. If you hadn't already done that sticking, then at this point you'd be foam squaring on the lighter red, which goes at the bottom of each flower, and then you would glue the darker bit on top. I've just kind of skipped a step here. Looking lovely. Just one more bit to go. Well, two bits, but making up his hand. First the yellow, which is more of the ribbon. This is glued on. And then I think I'll foam square the hand, give it a bit of pop. Make it look like he's really grasping around those flowers. There we go. All right, that's the male flower gnome done. Look how many pieces it is. It's hefty, but it's totally worth it because he is absolutely gorgeous. So now we've made the boy gnome, I guess we'd better make the girl gnome too. Here is my girl gnome, and just like I did with the boy, I've laid everything on top of itself following the assembly guide to check I'm happy with the colours, and I have also glued the darker petals of the tulips to the lighter ones underneath. And just like before, we need to start at the bottom. So I'm going to move these apart. Just as many pieces in here as with the other one. These are some detailed gnomes. Alright, these are my two bottom pieces, and I'll start by gluing, I think. Let's just double check. Yeah, I think I'll glue this one. Nope, not with the pin in my glue, I won't. Didn't do a very good job there. I just moved the whole thing. There we go. Wiggle it about, get it in place. Next, it's her shoes, and this is also a glue layer. She's not going to end up quite as deep as the male gnome because he has the extra layer that makes up his moustache, whereas she's just got the one bit for the hair. But they'll still look absolutely gorgeous when displayed together. There. Okay, first foam square layer is the bottom of her hair. I'll line this up using the edge of the bouquet and the flower at the top of her hat. Gently drop down. And I'm happy with that, so push to seal. Then we've got this bit which makes up her braids, and this will be glued. Next is her hat, starting with the big solid piece. This will be glued. And even more glue for the bit with the detail to add the flower pattern into her hat. Next, we've got the detail of the hat, the brim, which will be foamed. Then there's this little orange piece, which is her sleeve. There. Don't worry that it looks a bit odd that it's cut out. It'll work when everything else is on. And glue her nose on. And then the hat, the bottom of the flower, the big bit, this will be foam squared on. And the middle glued. Right, onto the bouquet. I'll glue this one, the biggest blue bit. And also this piece. This bit I'll foam. The bouquet is a little bit different on the female one than the male one. The layering is slightly different. This one looks a little bit more wrapped than the male one. The male one, the bouquet is kind of bigger and more open, which is why the pieces are a bit different and why we're foaming different ones on this one. Okay, we're getting there. Next is the green bit with all the stems. This one, which will be glued. Then this piece, which is going to be those front little bits. This one, I think I'll foam it. You could also glue it. Again, it depends a little bit on how deep you want your finished designs to end up. This one's a little trickier to foam because of this bit here. I've got some foam squares that I cut in half for a different project. And they'll fit beautifully up in there. They'll just be a little bit tricky to peel the tops off. Okay, back to the glue now. For the next biggest blue bit. Glue for the blue. And the final piece of blue, also glue. Then the ribbon, glued also. And her hands will be glued as well because we're quite far out from the body now. So if these were foamed on, it would look a bit weird. It would just be too far away from her arms. So we'll glue them instead. One on there. And one on there. And all that's left are those flowers. Remember, I've already glued my dark orange and light orange bits together. So now I can just foam square them to the green. And there she is, all finished. All those details in there. And she's beautiful. And of course, she matches lovely with her male counterpart. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make my floral bouquet gnomes from the Floral Craft Countdown. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for loads more gnome projects because I do have a little fondness for gnomes, but also don't forget to come back tomorrow for day 11 of the Floral Craft Countdown. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!